question that is so different for every individual, but it is one of the most important. As Owen said, we spend a lot of time with our coworkers. So as a manager, how important is that cultural fit of the candidate, given that they're fine on everything else, like they know the product, they great resume. So it would be great for every one of you to take a stab at that.
That makes sense.
Okay, so it's extremely important, and I'll actually give an extra details for this. Not only that it's important for the smaller team that you'll be a part of, right? Because when I hire someone for my team in, I don't know, Texas, it's going to be very different than an individual that I'm going to hire for New York. Not even because of the way Texas does business, but because of the individuals that I have in Texas, right? So it goes back to the first thing we spoke about, right? Learn who you are, who you're going to work with, and kind of try and figure out if that's a fit for you, first of all, because I know that you don't have to like the people that you work with. I'm fortunate, I love the people that I work with, and I personally will always work in places that I like people that I work with. So it's worth making sure that it fits for you and it fits for them, and I'm sure everyone's going to answer yes to this question.
Yeah, same here. So I had, I think cultural fit is super important. I had an experience where I had a team where one of them was kind of cancerous, where it was always no, 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 and negative. And like that one person took down the entire team just from like just feeling proud of like working there. Like it was almost like I'm coming in, I'm gonna hear some negative thing that's gonna come out of his mouth. So a lot of times cultural fit is important. And one thing I encourage a lot of you guys, because it's hard to say like, hey, how do I know if I'm a good cultural fit? So the best candidates that I've hired has always asked me, hey, is it okay for me to reach out to someone that works in your team, and can I have a 30-minute conversation with them as part of the interview process? And I absolutely love that, because I want them to be able to work with the people that are in my team, so that this way they have some sort of connection prior to joining, and there's already a kind of a cultural fit as they're coming in.
I'll say one thing about culture. We use the word a lot in every company, and we all have great culture, etc. What I worry about with culture is monoculture. And what I mean by that is the white tech bro. Like, it is pervasive and it is rampant. One thing that I look for when I always look for SEs is you gotta have difference. You gotta have diversity of thought. The majority of my engineering team is actually female. I have everything from a 52-year-old gay guy to a 25-year-old black woman, and I'm so proud of that. Like, that is one of the biggest things I will ever say is, if you can get different ideas, different lifestyles, socioeconomic backgrounds, like, thought is not monocultured. And I think the genius of a great leader is get as much thought into the room, let it battle it out, and the world will win. And that's really something that I've always prided myself on. So when you look at culture, do not look at culture as a monoculture. That's the biggest thing I will say about culture.
Yeah, that was pretty much where I was going to go with this one too. I think it's really, cultural fit is just like catch-all, right? And you can look at someone, oh, they're not a cultural fit, and move on. It's really, really hard, right, to not just let implicit bias fall into this cultural fit thing, right? If you're looking at someone and they look like you and sound like you and act like you, it's a lot easier to see how they could be a cultural fit, because you just don't have to make that big of a leap. So for us, something we've really spent a lot of time at Looker doing is really defining what cultural fit means to us, right? For us, it's primarily two things. It's a desire, right, to work collaboratively, right? It's not, and this is true of all SEs, right? But I think org-wide, we talk about it a lot at Looker, and a really customer-centric view of the world, right? Where the thing that matters the most is making the person that I'm working with successful, not it being all about I. And those are the two things we focus on. So for us, cultural fit means that, and specifically that. And it's not this like, do I think I want to work with them? Would they be cool? Would they be fun around the office, right? Like, it's because, and however much that's really important, it's just too easy to let things subconsciously seep into that in really subtle ways. So defining what that culture really is, and coming up with specific interview questions that help answer that question is really critical. And I think as an interviewee, right, I think you could really hold an interviewer to task on that, right? Do you think I'd be a cultural fit? Why? Right? Tell me why. And if they hesitate, right? If they give you constructive feedback, if they tell you good things, follow up on those. I think that's a reasonable thing to really ask about and to really dig into from the other side.
Not too much to add there. I think a point worth mentioning again is there can be diversity, but still a lot, like a really strong culture, right? If I look at our team at Slack, we're incredibly diverse, but we all kind of boil down to the same core values. What Sam said, I think, is spot on. Try to talk to as many people in that role. Talk to people in that office. Talk to people from the SF office or some other office in that same role, and just see how you guys get along. Really, really important. Can't be stressed enough just to have that cultural fit.
That's amazing. This kind of information, by the way, you would not get on YouTube, so it's amazing to have these people here. Thank you, guys. Any questions from the audience about culture fit? And does anyone have a story to share that, hey, I was told I was not a culture fit or something like that? Well, no one says that,
Do
but
you have any questions, period?
any questions?
On the culture fit, I'm sorry. We'll go first. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, cool. I'll get the mic.
On the culture fit, I mean, what I've seen is when someone joins, they kind of immerse into the culture of the company. Have you seen that, or have you seen an SC kind of change your SC team culture as well?
Again, my team is super diverse, and I think the best part about it is that we all change each other. Like, we have people like Allie in the back is on my team. She's a sweetheart. She came from Texas, she's an amazing person. She'll tell you first thing, she's learned more moving to New York City and being with different people, different cultures and backgrounds than anybody else. And I think that, like, if I'm gonna look back and hang my hat here, I'm gonna say, hey, people grew with me, and that's more important than anything. Like, screw the software, screw the thing. Yeah, I get we all make money and it's gonna go, but like, I really do believe that, like, if you can grow humans, you're gonna grow the company no matter what. So if you're not changing yourself, if I look back at the way I thought when I first came here 4 years ago versus the people I hire now, like, they've changed my life forever. And I think that's, knowing myself, I've gotten ROI in just how I've changed as a person overall. We got 2 or 3.
Okay, so on the flip side of the red flags question, what are some indications that someone would be a good manager?
A good manager?
Yeah, good manager.
So I don't know. So I'll steal stuff from my wife because I'm still trying to be a better manager. My wife is an awesome manager in her team. So a couple of things that I've stolen from her is around as you talk to managers. One of the things that I think is important. I take this now in my career is what are the tools and techniques that you have around personal development? Like, what are the ways of how you're going to develop me, not as a SE, but more as an individual? And then if you have aspiration, like, one of the things that I always ask is, like, what is your aspiration in 4 years? Like, where do you see yourself in 4 years? Do you even see yourself at Pluralsight? Do you see yourself as an SE? Like, are you trying to go into an AE? Like, I had one guy at Click, he ended up, after 2 years of being an SE, he wanted to be an AE, which is great. Like, how do I help them, enable him to get them there? So that's one of the things that I would ask a manager now is, like, how do you personally develop me into where I need to see myself in 4 years?
If you do it. So like any other role, not only an SE manager, like if you start already taking leadership within the team, mentoring people, helping them, putting in new processes, coming new ideas, then you're a good fit. You're opening a Pandora box about SEs wanting to be SE managers, because I feel like there's in this role, a lot of people after 2-3 years they say, "Oh, I want to be a manager," and then my first question to them is always why, and it's surprising how many times the answer is because I've been doing this for a while, and that's not a good reason. So really think if that's what you want to do, where you want to be in a few years, and then if that's what you want to do, then just start doing it. You don't need a title.
Just to be a little more blunt, right, about what Ido was saying, right? The thing about like moving into management in sales roles, right, is it's not the next step. I think in most other roles, and I'm not sure if you're in sales today, right, but true for others, you know, I think in most other industries or in most other roles, right, like, oh, well, I do this role and then I go to a manager, and like in sales, you can go up lots of ways other than being a manager. If you want to be a really, really great sales engineer, right, and keep on closing deals and making tons of money, and if you want to make more money as a sales engineer, you don't go into management. You go up market, right? I want to close bigger deals. I want to work with more reps. It's not the only way up, and you're actually, it's not the path for advancement if you're super money driven. It's the path for advancement if you really want to, build, grow people and build their careers and help grow the organization. There are also a lot of SE orgs have specific technical tracks for people who really want to get deep into the technology, whether it's overlay teams that work in specific industries or work with specific components of the technology that you're selling. So management is definitely not the only way up, and I think you could argue that it's not even a way up, it's some way across in certain respects.
Just to add on to that, most of my SEs who wanted to move up in their career kind of went into the product management. That is really one good path to go from an SE to a PM.
I always tell people that want to go into management, what do you think about filters and cigarettes? Because they're going to burn hot from the top, and you're going to have to shove a lot of shit downward and make it seem like it's okay. Like, it is a very thankless job. So I would also find somebody who really loves the collective group growth and doesn't really think of themselves as an individual and like wants to be shined on, because it is, as these guys can probably all tell you, we have dealt with like God knows what from up top, and we have to make it sound rosy as hell from the bottom. So it's not something you want to get into, honestly.
Awesome. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah. I'm from a manufacturing background. I work with different ethnicities, ethnic groups.
Yeah.
And
To the mic.
I find myself in a political game because I'm trying to work with different ethnic groups and trying to figure out how we could work together as a team. And that's pretty hard because I'm working with a lot of Hispanics, Indians, some from South America. They have different ideals or ideologies. So it's really hard to get them to work together when they have conflicting ideals. So that's just from my experience. And sometimes I see it as a political game, and you're trying to get them all on the same page, trying to get to that goal, I guess, right? Achieve that certain goal, as a team. So I just wanted to say that. So.
All right, to that question or whatever, statement or whatever, use the ideology of why your parents came here, to make a better life. You all came here to work harder and to be better. I think that's the thing I love more than anything, being a first generation American, is like, we're all here to be better than what our parents had back home. So I would say to you is strive to find the commonalities and less to find the differences culturally. And I think when you can find that, you're going to achieve more in your organization.
All right. We do have 10-minute break, so I have one last question I want to get to. Zev, do you want to add something really quickly? Cool. This is the last question, guys. How do you define work-life balance for your team, right? So the reason that this question is asked, because maybe you're hiring some candidates that ask you, but at the same time, as a potential SE, sometimes you don't want to say that, hey, what's the work-life balance? Because then that person appears as lazy. So what is the right way to approach this question? Or should you as managers bring this topic?
So I get this a lot around work-life balance. So it depends on the SE. So if it's someone that's relatively new in their SE career, I tend to bring it up because I think it's important to set expectations of what they're getting themselves into. Most of the senior ones will just bring it up or they already know. But the way I describe work-life balance is that sales is a quarterly sport. So with every quarter, it starts off pretty slow. So your work-life balance becomes a lot easier when it comes to probably more life and less work. At the end of the quarter, it becomes more work and less life. And that's part of the job. That's why you get here, especially companies that are public. And I talk about it because we're a publicly traded company now, so every quarter means a lot. So kind of like the expectation is, look, you're always on call, even on vacation. That's part of what you're signing up for. You're not expected to always be on call, but there are opportunities that you're super critical for, and especially at the end of a quarter, you're kind of expected that if someone reaches out that isn't Sam, and it's like a very senior person, that you're gonna go pick up the phone and make sure that you answer that. So that's the expectation.
Yeah, I think, listen, so we have a no limit vacation policy. You can take as many vacation as you want. You have to get your job done, right? And that's no expectation, no exceptions, right? So my wife makes fun of me that we only work 1 week every quarter. Because all the deals come in the last week. She said, "What did you do all quarter? Why only now?" But yeah, it's very aggressive. Now, it's a high demanding job. Period. Like it's not I work in Grand Central in a development office with a small sales office. I come from development. I did code development for 8 years before moving to pre-sales. It's not the same. Okay, it's a lot more intense. Now, you don't have to ask. If you ask, don't be a dick about it, right? Like I had, if anyone wants, I can share the worst interview I ever had in my life after. But also, like, go on Glassdoor, go ask people, go find out. Like these things, people write them. People know. You can just find out on the company without asking anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also. I was offering to anybody else. Anyway, like it's part of the broader company culture too. I personally think it's a perfectly reasonable thing to ask if you're doing it in an educated way, right? Like, what bothers me from questions is when they have like 800 really obvious questions. I think this is a genuine one, right? And I think asking it at the right time, it's a really good thing to ask. You know, the person that you reach out to on an SE. Who you reach out to on LinkedIn before you went to an interview. Ask them, like, don't ask the manager when you're doing a half-an-hour phone screen, or ask it when you're on site for 5 interviews in a row and ask it to one person. There's plenty of time to get to it. So we hire people from our internal hires from our support team who worked in a chat role. Previously, so we're kind of like on a shift-based work, right? So that's a very big change from like, hey, well, I could take, and we have unlimited vacation. I could take 3 weeks off as long as, I tell them, give them advance notice, and they cover the shifts. When you take 3 weeks off in SE, like somebody else is working on your deals. That said, you take as many 3-day weekends as you want, really, and you could push your shift meetings around it, and it's not that hard. So I think it's a different style of work from some other types of jobs. And obviously every company is different.
Yeah.
Speaking of work-life balance, I was curious, like, what's your travel schedule like? Covering the regions and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's just going to differ drastically by company. There's obviously a lot more remote work done than there was done in the past, right? Things like web meetings and Zoom or whatever, right, are really effective ways of communicating. Some companies say, we're going to go on site for every project. It's probably correlated to the market that you're working in. If you're working with small companies doing a lot of high volume, you can't justify putting someone on a plane to go close a deal that's, $10,000. If you're working with large enterprise companies closing multi-million-dollar contracts, like as an SE, you're going to go sit there at a desk for 3 weeks, talk to anybody you possibly can, because that's what's going to build relationships within the org. So there's a lot of variety. I don't know if...
But to be fair, but just because we're in New York City, typically, in most companies, a regional SE in New York City does not need to travel a ton. Because, I can probably go a building here to 5 different companies in one day. So this is a very valid question to probably almost everywhere else in the world. But in New York City, the SEs travel, if it's regional. If it's not, you're from New York City and you're supporting the east side of the states, they travel very, very little.
I think that we're actually I left the last 30 minutes for all of us to socialize, but we do have other events where we just keep the time to socialize. So the point is, we want to encourage all of you to get to know each other and really grow your network. We're a rare commodity. Not many SEs in the city, right? And all of these guys are trying to hire and grow their companies, and not just that. Like we're so niche. We can learn so much from each other. So we really wanna, we don't really have time. I was told at 8 o'clock we have the limit, but we want to thank our Arkema or Arkema. What is that?
Arkema.
Arkema.
If your
Arkema
Salesforce instance sucks, please call these people.
Thank you.
Who uses
Arkema.
Salesforce internally here? Who thinks their Salesforce could be a little bit better? Call Arkema.
Thank you, Arkema, and we really appreciate it. We thank Lupio as well. They're not here. They're based in Toronto, but Eric, you use it. They're a great company. Please reach out to me if you guys want to automate your RFP process.
I also just want to thank everybody for showing up today. This is awesome to see. It really is. Invite your friends. Everybody he knows in SC. Let's grow this. I think the thing with SCs is until we realize how big of an army we have, we don't really have a lot of pull. We're always outnumbered by the AEs, and I think the more and more we band together, the better and better our network will be, the stronger we're all going to be. So please, if I can ask for one thing here, if you're an SC or no SCs, just add them to the group and join the group. Come to events.
Yeah, this is just the start, guys. We are here after less than a year. We are at 187 members on our meetup group. Less than a year, so thank you, everyone. We're gonna beat San Francisco, exactly.
Little podunk town.
we do have a date, tentative April 2nd Tuesday. If any one of you want to host the next event, please let me know. Would love to get together again. If you join our meetup group, it's just Sales Engineers of New York. Go to Google, type in Meetup Sales SENY. You're gonna find us. And there's a website, thanks to G, salesengineers.nyc. Easy?
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone, for showing up.
There's still some food
Thanks
left.
so much.
Please eat.
And get some stickers here.